Welcome to ProjectME, the podcast. I'm your host, Tiffany Carter, the founder of ProjectME, multimillionaire entrepreneur, former TV newscaster, money-making expert, female empowerment speaker, and self-proclaimed office supply addict. My mission is to take the mystery out of making big money. Every week on ProjectME, the podcast, I'll share success tips, strategies, and stories from other entrepreneurs, experts, and millionaires, showing you exactly how you can achieve your most exceptional life. Now let's get to it. Are you tired of grinding away to make money, feeling like you need to clone yourself to make your business a success? I know, I was once there too, working 12 to 14 hours a day, 7 days a week with no me time and totally overwhelmed. I knew there had to be an easier and more fun way to make massive money. And that's when I discovered passive income. Fast forward years later, and now I consistently make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year while I sleep and with little of my time. My Lord, is this a freeing and empowering feeling. It's my mission and passion to teach all of you to do the same. So I created the exclusive ProjectME Passive Income Posse, where I directly teach you how to incorporate passive income streams into your life and business. If you desire the same financial freedom I've created, message me on Instagram or Facebook at ProjectME with Tiffany, and I will send you the group application requirements. We're keeping this group small so everyone gets customized guidance and attention. All right, now back to today's episode. You are listening to the podcast and posse, ProjectME with Tiffany Carter. Hey guys, what's up? Today is the first time I'm doing this. I brought on one of my personal development coaches so you all can absorb the magic and the lessons that I get access to on a weekly basis. Anna Maria is a trauma-informed personal empowerment coach. She developed her unique healing methods from thousands of hours of trauma treatment training from top specialists. And she's also the founder of Life Butterfly Effect. Hey, what's up, girl?
Hey, how's it going?
Good. I'm so excited to have you on. You guys, normally I don't bring on anyone who is a personal coach to me. I don't really know why. Maybe it's because I want to keep them for my own, my own little private boundary thing. I don't know what it is, but I felt really compelled to bring you on, Anna, because you have so much wisdom and such a unique style that I want people to be able to be exposed to your ways.
Thank you. That's so kind of you.
So tell us a little bit about what the hell trauma-informed personal empowerment work means.
So trauma-informed care means treating a whole person and taking into account their past trauma and the resulting coping mechanisms they have in their day-to-day life as an adult. Trauma-informed personal empowerment is something that I came up with because in my personal experience, when I'm, looking online and reading in books and hearing podcasts and, watching interviews, there's a ton of personal development coaches out there, and they are very determined to push you past all your limits. And if there's no pain, then there's no gain. And, you have to grind in the hustle and you always have to step outside your comfort zone. And yeah, it makes sense. I mean, if you take into consideration growth is a painful process, is not pleasant. But when you're dealing with somebody who has had adverse childhood experiences where the trauma-informed aspect comes into place, you have to tread a little bit more differently. You have to be more gentle. You have to use a lot of compassion, and you have to watch for opportunities of growth without retriggering the past pain.
I love what you just said at the end of retriggering past pain, because you guys, you can even use, of course, I want to use an analogy, but you can even use the analogy I see physical fitness trainers doing the same thing, like you said, no pain, no gain, push to your limit, max out, burn out. And you know what? That really doesn't work well. Speaking, you guys who've listened to me long enough know, and those of you who are new to me, I am a trauma survivor of heavy sexual abuse and rape. And so if I worked, which I have before, I have worked with other coaches and quote unquote healers who didn't have this unique approach like you do, that pushed too far and it backfired. It almost, I guess you could say, like re-triggered me. Does that make sense?
Oh, totally. It because our brain just has all that information. Our nervous system has all that information in there. So basically, when you go through adverse childhood experiences, or some others call it complex PTSD, it affects you in your adult life. It's very much alive. It's still in your body because the life experiences that you had when you were young, they still remain in the cells of your body's nervous system. It's kind of like in your energy field, in your soul, in your memories of your conscious and unconscious. And all of that is usually harbored mostly, in our body's nervous system. So when you're having a discussion with someone who is trying to motivate you or giving you steps to follow and things to do, and they're pushing you, it really can take you in a place that is a little bit dangerous for people who have experienced adverse childhood experiences, because growth mindset is, and which I'm a strong believer in, it focuses on consistent achievements and having this ongoing motivation. But that is totally different for someone who has lived with adversity early on in life. They have these perfectionist complexes. They don't know what their boundaries are. So they could push themselves physically, emotionally, mentally past limits that they're not even aware they're now treading on in re-triggering danger zones. For someone who is highly sensitive and maybe even an empath, for example, the warning signs between personal development and personal destruction can be very fine between those two.
For our audience who's not familiar with what an empath is and a highly sensitive person, will you explain that to everyone?
Sure. So an empath is somebody who, well, I could explain it how I can relate to it, because I am both those things. So when somebody feels when somebody feels great joy, I'll focus on the positive. When somebody feels great excitement, I literally feel their joy and their excitement in me. If they're on the other side feeling pain, sorrow, grief, I can sit with someone and I'm literally carrying that for them at the same time, unless I've learned my boundaries and unless I learn to observe. So because you're able to do that because you're highly sensitive, your nervous system is more attuned to the environment and your surroundings and the people there, which I personally believe, and from what I've studied, it's because you're early on, if you have developed adverse childhood experiences, you have a sort of hypervigilance of your environment, of the people you're surrounded with. So you were kind of aware of their feelings, of their mood, of what the environment is like before even you have the chance to pay attention to yourself. And that's where
I know so many people who are listening, because in my opinion, like attracts like. Okay. So you guys, I'm an empath. I'm a highly sensitive person. I tend to push too hard. I'm not someone who requires, a lot of motivation, right? I don't need someone to push me anymore. I need someone to pull me back. So every single thing she described, I am. And therefore, a majority of the clients that I work with are almost identical, with the hypervigilance, experiencing adrenal fatigue, burnout, exhaustion, because they are absorbing every single feeling, emotion in the world, and they don't know why or how to stop it. Does that sound about right?
And you know what? It's the trauma, it impacts every area of functioning. It includes physical, it includes mental, it includes behavior, it includes social. Like it affects us in the relationships we choose. It affects us in our relationship with our boss, with our coworkers. We don't know how to put boundaries in our personal romantic relationships, in our professional relationships, even in with our children, maybe if anybody has children. And I really do believe that trauma informed personal empowerment, which is what I practice, it means creating an inertia of healing alchemy from the inside of your soul. So you have to build yourself up in order to be able to keep moving forward in a healthy way, not in a way where just you're worn out. I don't want to have someone be a survivor. I want somebody to be thriving. I don't call people, oh, trauma survivors. I call them trauma warriors because we're here to thrive. I don't want somebody to just function day to day. I've been there. Functioning is not fun. It's not great. It's not sexy. I want to thrive. And it took me so long after my experience, my personal experience, where I've reached rock bottom burnout, adrenal burnout, um, to just learn it step by step. And I'm like, how come it's nowhere? Nobody's talking about this. And I would be looking at like personal empowerment coaches, and they would immediately re-trigger me back into like the danger zone of fear, of insecurity, of oh my God, am I doing enough? Is this enough? Let me push myself more. And then instead of being 2 steps ahead, I would find myself 5 steps back with like a panic attack, or I would be like, anxiety or feeling insecure. And instead of moving forward, I'd be paralyzed. So what good is that?
I'm glad you brought that up. So you guys, I want to share this. I love adding like personal insights. It's a little vulnerable since obviously you know that I work with Anna Maria personally. She is my personal coach on all of this stuff. And she routinely, right? She routinely will tell me, in a loving, nurturing way, right, when I need to pull back. And I need that because I'm hardwired to push. I do truly love and honor myself, but it's like she said, it's in ourselves. So it was last year and I wanted to go. Had never been outside of the corporate world. I had never been I guess you could call it outside the corporate world to a Tony Robbins event, right? And I'm not putting down Tony Robbins, but I think it's important for you guys to hear this. And I remember telling her I was doing this. I felt very called to go. I didn't know why. I've been exposed to him many, many times when I was an employee. Okay. But I felt really, really called to go. I didn't know why. And this was before she was truly like doing deeper work with me. And I remember she said to me, like, I want you to be gentle with yourself. If you feel these things, I want you to take a break and give yourself permission to leave and nurture yourself. And she went through a whole thing. And I was kind of like, I appreciated it when you said that. I didn't really get why. And I appreciated it. Well, thank God she said that because everything she said happened. And I want you to just speak a little bit about that, Anna, because as much as, Tony Robbins does have so much to teach and so much to offer, but for people who have experienced trauma, and it doesn't have to be trauma to the magnitude I have, right? Maybe you were bullied in school. Maybe it was emotional.
Emotional
Exactly.
neglect.
Like,
Exactly.
I don't want people to think when we say trauma or when she's saying it, it has to be on the level of my story. My story is like, movie level shit.
Trauma could be you're sitting in your crib and you're crying until you're like 3 or 4 years old. And because unfortunately, and it's nobody's fault many times. Let's say your mom is a single mom and has 3 jobs, and and I don't know, she has somebody else caring for you, and that they're not attuned to your crying and they won't come. And you learn that, nobody cares about me when I reach out. That is traumatic. You feel insignificant. Your nervous system, your brain rewires itself feeling that with that feeling. So it doesn't have to be like a war zone or revolution or rape, even though those things happen all the time as well. But even things like these, like you're hungry and you're crying and your mom is too busy working or God knows what, or your grandma's watching you and nobody knows that you're hungry and you want a snack. And that happens so often because nobody's paying attention to you. It's emotional neglect. It's equally traumatic.
I appreciate you explaining that. So back to the Tony Robbins thing, right? Can you, using that as an example, again, we're not putting him down or the Gary
No,
Vaynerchuk's of
no.
the world down, but explain why you, I guess you coached me. Explain why you basically pre-coached me going into that. What do you see can happen with people?
So, because I knew you were highly sensitive and an empath, so I love Tony Robbins' process and the way he does it, and uh, I love his work, really. However, the methods he uses for a highly sensitive person such as myself, I knew that I would be completely overwhelmed because highly sensitive, it means so I'd be in that huge room and you were sharing stories on your Instagram and I was like, "Oh my God, I see music, loud music. I see flashing lights. I hear people talking, people screaming like on the microphone. I'm already overwhelmed just by watching the stories. And then there's a whole bunch of strangers around you, so you don't know anybody there either. So I said, just listen, I don't know how you're going to be handle it. I basically gave you the advice I would have given myself, knowing also that you're highly sensitive and empathic. You need to take breaks. Your nervous system, when you're highly sensitive, it means you have a very sensitive nervous system, which is a great virtue if you know how to manage it properly. So you do not need to put yourself in overwhelm. And things like loud music, screaming, and being constantly triggered, because what he does is a lot of triggering questions. So I don't know how you will react because you have this adverse childhood experiences in your past. Who knows what you can get triggered to after you're already overwhelmed with all that stimulation in the room. So that's why I said that to you, because even though the intent of a show like that is growth, some people could be frozen, they could just emotionally freeze or go into fight mode or go into freeze mode or flight, and you just need to get the hell out of there, which I remember I think you left a little
Oh,
bit
yeah.
early.
But because I will say, because of you, because and I know you guys listening can relate. My most people who, want to be entrepreneurs or leave, full-time employment and start their own business, and you're passionate and you want to help a lot of people, right? We're doers, we're movers, we're people that make, we're women that make things happen, we're men that make things happen, right? And so we can tend to do too much, right? And we can kind of suck it up. And a lot of us were taught that in our childhoods. We either had to suck it up or there was no one coming. So we had to figure it out, right? I had
Yeah.
both. It was like, suck it up. Your feelings don't matter. And I had no choice. So if you hadn't have said this to me, okay, and in the manner you did, with your training, you didn't just say it like, hey, Tiff, if you get overwhelmed, you should leave. Like, that wouldn't have even sank into me, right? It was how you said it and explained it and presented it. And you also told me my options. You presented options to me. Okay, I'm a smart person, but it doesn't necessarily click when you're overwhelmed and in the moment.
Exactly. I was just going to say, if you are triggered and if you're overwhelmed, your rational mind is out the window and you don't know what to do. Because I know, because I've been there myself. And afterwards, a day later, I'm like, why didn't I leave? Or why didn't I say that? What the hell was wrong with me? It's because I was triggered. I wasn't, I was in that place where my brain was not online. My rational brain was not online. And that's the whole purpose of when you're coaching somebody and you're trauma informed for personal empowerment, you got to be careful how you do it, because you do not want to re-trigger them. Because I believe that growth should be the embodiment of self-respect. And when you're trauma informed and you're coaching someone, you will have to get them to earn that right for themselves and be like, hey, you deserve this. You need to respect yourself first. Don't be so hyper vigilant about your surroundings and pleasing everyone else and what is he feeling and what is she feeling. Am I going to be accepted? Am I okay in this situation? No, you got to put yourself first. Like they say in the airplane, put your own oxygen mask first.
Totally. And because of the options she gave me, they were stored somewhere in my mind, right? And guess what, you guys? I did get overwhelmed, but I left before I was triggered. I left before like my whole system shut down because I had this guidance. So it gave me permission because how I'm wired is all these, however, there was like something crazy, like 13,000 people, in the United Center in Chicago. I mean, it was filled, and it's like, there was no, when I walked out that door, you guys, and I left every day early, and I didn't do the fire walk either. Like, fuck that fire walk. Like, okay, like I don't need to do a fucking fire walk to prove that I'm a warrior. Okay. Anyway, I digress. But when I walked out those doors of the United Center, because there's only one way, one labeled way out, there was not one other soul that walked out. And that the normal Tiffany would be like, Jesus, I should stay.
You would shame yourself.
Shame myself. I paid, it's expensive because I bought like a higher level ticket. I don't know what it was. It was expensive. So it was like, you paid for this, you should stay. All these other people are staying, like, meaning thousands of people are staying. Everyone around me is like obsessed. No one is exhibiting any signs of overwhelm, and I'm hyper vigilant. So I'm pretty good at telling. And you're right. I would have shamed myself into staying and then paid a huge price. I would have gotten sick. Without a doubt, I would have been sick. So do you see this sort of cycle happening if people aren't working with, a coach like yourself? Do you see that sort of thing happening where they shame themselves into staying in an environment, a relationship, a job, a situation, and then it backfires on them?
Totally. Now, don't get me wrong. I can totally call bullshit when I see it. I'm very straightforward too when it comes to that, because there's some people who just love the excuses. I mean, and they love to stay in that place of victimhood because it's all they know and it's their safe zone. However, if you want to grow and if you are ready to take that step forward and to keep marching towards your own growth with your growth mindset, I think it should be done with the embodiment of self-respect.
So you say victimhood. I'm so glad you brought this up. I mean, you know that I'm a huge teacher and believer and role model for, high self-worth equals high net worth. And therefore the opposite is also true. I do notice a common theme in working with thousands of people over my career, that people who are not going after their dreams or have constant drama in their life, they can never get ahead. They're in this, what you called victimhood space. So why do people stay in this space? Like, what's the payoff for staying in this space, even though maybe they have had some guidance, right? Like they have had guidance from you, yet they resist coming out of victimhood. Why is that?
It could be a series of reasons, and it really depends on the person. And that's where I really highly use my intuition. And when I have conversations, I try to dig in a little bit in a very gentle way. So it could be a variety of reasons. For example, those people may have been judged somehow all of their life, and it's kind of like re-victimization happened from the outside, from their environment all the time. And you know what? Honestly, they may not know. One of the reasons would be they might not know how to be the other than a victim. Being a victim and being attacked, emotionally and even physically, may be all they know. They don't even have the thought that maybe, I could be something else. Others may find they may not have been given the right type of attention as throughout their life, and being a victim, they've noticed that there are some people out there who listen to them and it gives them a kind of attention, and any attention is better than no attention because we're human beings, we're social creatures. So then they just stick with that because it's all they think they deserve. I personally feel that it comes from a deep, deep, there's many avenues that go center into a deep core of undeserving.
I can
And
relate because I used to have, as I call it, a victim story. And I
right.
mean, my God, my story is ready and ripely made for a victim story. Like it became my story, and therefore, right, our stories become our excuse to either thrive or to stay hidden, right, to stay small. And my story, was I'm doing all this trauma counseling. This was back when in my 20s when I first started heavy therapy
That's
from all
awesome.
that abuse, right? And it was like, my story was like, I've had all this happen to me, and my whole life is focused on like all this counseling I need because of it, because I'm so fucked up and I'm depressed. I mean, all low vibe. And even though some of those things were facts,
No, but
I created a story around it.
you did, but you know what? I think it's awesome that you reached for help in your 20s. Most people don't know their head from their ass in their 20s. So I think that's awesome that you did that. And maybe you had to hear your story. Maybe that's another thing. Maybe some people just need to hear their stories a few times and have other people hear their stories to validate their existence, because many people, they don't even feel like their existence was acknowledged. Not only do they feel that they don't deserve it, they feel that, do I even exist for, do I matter? Do I exist? Yes, you are deserving. You do matter. And you know what? You are seen. I see you. And for somebody to be seen and truly seen and be shown a path for them to see themselves for the first time is absolutely groundbreaking. And I just feel that once you do that, I think there's no going back because you've already stepped into yourself. You've bridged a path to your inner self, to your core self. And I think it's beautiful. And once you do that, there's no going back. And that's where your self respect is going to start growing from.
Oh, I 1,000% agree with that. So clearly you are very passionate. I can hear it through your voice. I mean, this is your purpose. This is your zone of genius. I know how many hours and hours and hours you've spent, studying and training in order to be able to serve and help other women. But there's usually something deeper when
Mm-hmm.
someone has that fire. So would you mind sharing a little of at least your personal story on why you are so passionate about helping, thousands of women heal?
Well, I want my personal journey to create a ripple effect of empowerment to more and more people that I come into contact with. That's how the whole idea of life butterfly effect came in came into being, because I feel that if I'm going to make a little change here in myself first and then share it with somebody else, that's going to create a ripple effect with everybody who I come into contact with, who they come into contact with, so on and so forth. um, the reason why I'm so passionate about this is, well, it's personal. It's something that I've come to terms to realize that I may not get the apologies, and I may not get the, oh, I see how you've hurt, from the people involved in my personal uh, journey as I was growing up. And I decided that, you know what? Screw it. They took so much up to here, they're not gonna take from here on. And I've noticed that my attitude towards this is not shared by everyone else. So I kind of want to take people and grab them by the shoulders and look them in the eye and say, hey, you don't have to stay there any longer. You're alive. How beautiful it is that you're alive, and you have another opportunity to make it the way your soul wants it, not how everybody else wanted it. So I feel like I'm kind of like a personal fighter and advocate for everyone else who's trying to find their voice. And that's what I find that in my sessions, that's what I do. I want them to find their voice so that they can, scream it out into the world and be like, I'm here. Look at me, see me. This is who I am. I'm valuable. I'm deserving. I am awesome. I want to help some people to strengthen their sense of personal identity. Once you've gone through trauma, you have your personal identity is so it's not centered. You don't even know who you are sometimes. You think you're who your parents wanted you to be, who your siblings wanted you to be, your uncle, or because you were shamed, you were judged. You have no idea who you are. And when you don't know who you are, what kind of choices are you going to make as an adult? What kind of choices are you going to make for a career, for a spouse, for any, all those important decisions that then will build the rest of our lives. So I find that if you can work on these core things, you will be able to change the rest of your life.
Oh my God, that was so well said. And it's, you guys who've done private coaching with me, or you're in my exclusive group, the ProjectME Passive Income Posse. There's a reason why I say we've got to do mindset. Now, my expertise is money mindset, right? That doesn't mean this includes a lot of this, right? Because there's a lot of emotional abuse and neglect that also can happen involving money. But like I always say, I could give you an amazing multi-million-dollar business strategy, as I'm paid to do, right? I can give that to you, but you don't do this deeper work like I continue to do, right? I continue to do like the work I do with Anna. If you don't do this work, you will end up sabotaging your dreams. You'll end up doing it in ways that you don't even realize you're doing it, because deep down you have soul wounds that have to be healed. Would you agree with that, Anna?
Totally. And listen, the belief you have about yourself is what ultimately determines your attitude when you're faced with obstacles.
Yep.
So, I mean, and life is about facing obstacles. So you have to have a strong belief about yourself, a strong sense of personal identity, so that you can be empowered in your inner sense of self, and that you can be driven to live a life in alignment and in satisfaction with your true values, with your core values.
I mean, a lot of people say to me, and I'll get, I love getting DMs from you guys, especially when it comes down to this kind of stuff. You've experienced some shit in your life, and you appreciate that I share my story openly and you don't feel as alone. And I love getting those DMs from you guys. And what I notice is there is a resistance when I make suggestions to work with someone like Anna and do this work, right? With someone who gets it and who doesn't do this pushing method, right? Who's gently guiding you, but is also calls bullshit too. But what I do notice is a majority of people, like 95%, find all sorts of reasons to not do the work. And it doesn't matter. I can take money out of it, right? Because you do offer an initial complimentary session. So it's like, even something that doesn't cost money, I notice people have a resistance. So what is this resistance coming from? Even though I know these women know it's something that would benefit them and they need, but what is the resistance?
Well, the resistance, I believe, is a survival mechanism of dissociation. And I mean, you know what? I was there myself. I knew there was something wrong. I knew I wanted to address it. First of all, I didn't even know where to start. In my case, it came with a health breakdown. And that's when I discovered that, oh, wait, surprise, surprise, there's a connection between mind, body, and soul. So, you know what, Tiffany, like, nobody's going to put a slice of delicious cake down and be like, you know what, I'm not going to have this cake. Thanks for giving it to me. I'll have salad. It's healthier for me. Nobody's gonna say, "Oh my God, this handbag is on sale. I want it. I've been watching it. You know what? I'm gonna invest in that. Screw my gym membership for the next 6 months. I know I should get to the gym, but I want to get that handbag because I'll be looking so fly." But okay, no, but we're seduced by these other things that distract us from our pain. We do not willingly, unfortunately, we do not willingly go into pain to resolve it, to hold it, to cradle it, to nurture it. And that's what I want to put like a different, I don't even know how to call it, a different spin on it, maybe. It's not sitting with your pain, discovering it is not painful. If anything, it will teach you to have more compassion, more love, more nurturing. It will give you a sense of gentleness that you were not even aware you had before. Um, what I ultimately want is I want trauma warriors to connect back to their hearts. What could be more beautiful than that, and what are we ultimately really healing? I believe that we're processing and integrating all of the noise, all of the noise that has sunk our core selves from being heard. There's noise such as pain, grief, fear, worry, and there's nothing wrong with these emotions. And I don't believe that we should run away from them because, when they're stuck in our body and they're buried in our innermost depths so deep that we're no longer in touch and aware of them, then we live a life that is not authentic anymore. So we reach 40, 50, 60, and we're like, what the fuck did I do? What have I done? And that's more painful.
Oh God. And I see that because I coach a lot of these people. And, I see that because all of our choices and our decisions, obviously there's the universe involved. So we're really not in charge of everything, right? But
Right.
all of our daily choices, our decisions are all a reflection of what is going on deeper inside of us.
Mm-hmm.
And it if we're a hot mess inside, we're going to make hot mess decisions. So you use the word dissociation. Now, when I first heard this word, I truly didn't know what it really meant. Can you give some examples of how people dissociate?
Well, it's individual to every person, and we're also different. I mean, it's dissociation is it's a mental process of disconnecting from one's thoughts and feelings and memories, um so it's as simple. Everybody has their own methods of putting their head in the sand.
And I mean, I can tell you guys like what mine are. Mine have changed, right? I used to live, and I'm not exaggerating, I used to live in a constant dissociative state. There might have been breaks, like maybe I was in therapy, right? Or maybe I watched a movie and there was something about the movie that, touched on that pain that was inside of me. And I might have had a half an hour here and there of being present, but I lived in a dissociative state, meaning workaholic, had an over exerciser. And I mean, to the point of where, it's an eating disorder, right? I didn't involve food, but it was extreme exercising, shopping, binge watching TV, lots of drama in relationships, right? I mean, a lot of people get, addicted to, video gaming, or maybe you are someone who spends hours and hours and hours scrolling social media. Those are all forms of dissociation, right?
Oh, totally, they are. And many of them are like, they sound awesome. Oh, she's a hard workaholic could be said as, oh, she's such a hard worker. Or somebody who goes to the gym and just like completely pounds themselves, It's like, oh, look at her, she really cares about her health. Or, and any extreme, even if it's a good thing, it's not a good thing. I'm always about a healthy middle, because if you take anything like eat 5 pounds of broccoli and tell me how you're going to feel after that, it's not going to be pretty, even though broccoli is great for your health, So, yeah, dissociation mainly happens, I think, because we do not want to sit with those. Well, first of all, it's triggering if you sit with those painful feelings. So you have to have a method. You have to be taught and you have to be guided to be able to sit with those uncomfortable, not really painful, let's just call them uncomfortable and foreign feelings, because you were not taught affect regulation early on in life. So my goal is to, you know, be able to sit with any feeling, even if it's sadness, even if it's pain, even if it's grief. And I had to do it myself. I was so afraid, Tiffany. I didn't know how to be angry. I didn't know how to be sad. I didn't know how to be any of those things, because I was always like, oh my God, don't go there. It's going to eat me whole. It's going to swallow me alive. It didn't. It didn't. And if anything, now I appreciate myself so much more. And I hold myself in such a high esteem that if anybody tries to come into my, you know, my bubble of self-respect that I've built around me, it's like, hold it, you're trespassing a boundary that's very important to me. It's up to here, buddy, no further.
Yep, and I'm right there with you. And I'm in a 12-step group that is for people who grew up in dysfunctional environments, right? And they teach some of this, but one of the things that they say at the beginning of every meeting is there is no way around the pain. You must go through it to heal. And it's
the only way out is through. The only way out is through. And I didn't want to, you know, when I had my breakthrough, I was like, what's the pill? Give me the magic 1, 2, 3 step. Let me make out like a spreadsheet. How long is this going to take? 2, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, 6 months? No, it's not like that. And it was hard for me to understand that. I mean, I went to school for economics. I was expecting there was a specific formula that I could follow. No, there's none of that. It's not like that. It's a journey, and it's a journey in self-compassion, self-love, self-care, and self-respect.
You know what's so cool, you guys? I just have to share this so you know how I met Anna. And it's not only a lesson of manifestation, but it's also a lesson for you guys who are also, you know, who are also coaches, whatever kind of coach you are, or you're an online entrepreneur, just to show you how the universe is always serving us, like professionally, personally. It's like we met through Instagram, and we met truly through probably joint hashtags. Like I follow because of, you know, I've shared, I have a chronic condition that I'm in, so to speak, remission for, right? For adrenal fatigue. So I wanted to connect with other people who have it. I mean, I felt so alone. And so we were following, right? Anna and I were following similar people who were kind of like, you know, the women who were like a little bit ahead of us in terms of talking about it. And we met through that way. So business wise, right? You guys, this is how you meet people, but also let's look at it in terms of manifesting. I would pray. I really would pray, because I felt so alone in having this chronic illness that truly it's an invisible illness. Because unless you're in someone's personal life who has, whether it's chronic fatigue, fibromyalgia, a gut health thing, adrenal fatigue, on the outside, you can't necessarily tell anything's wrong. Like if you looked at my social media back then, you'd be like, Tiffany has a fabulous life. You know, meanwhile, I'm like on the couch and hadn't showered in 5 days. And it's like, I didn't want to feel alone. So I manifested it. And also the universe knew I needed Anna in my life for what gifts that she had to teach me and coach me through. I just think it's so cool.
It is. And like I always say, hand in hand, we got this, because you cannot do it alone. You know, we're social creatures. There's no way you could do it alone. And I just believe that ultimately, you know, we're all walking each other home back to love, self-love.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Because we deserve it. Sorry, I just want to say because we deserve it.
We deserve it just for being born, right?
Exactly. It's our birthright.
That's right. We don't have to make millions of dollars. We don't have to have a perfect body. We don't have to have all these things. We deserve it just because we're us, for being born.
Exactly.
You use a tool I'm not sure if it's in most of your sessions or all of your sessions. It's a workbook and a training called the Desire Map. Would you share a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the Desire Map is a method that it's basically a rich inquiry process that gets to the root of how you want to feel. Um, the reason why I found this to be a wonderful method for my trauma informed personal empowerment sessions is because, you know, who asked me as I was growing up, Anna, do you want to feel? What are your core desires? Nobody, you know, when I was 15, when I was 20, nobody gave a crap, sorry, about what my true core desires are. So nobody taught me to look inside myself. I didn't know how to. I was not given, a way to do it. All of the time, I was trying to please everyone else. So, which is what happens when you have adverse childhood experiences. You try to survive. When you're in survival mode, you do not take a moment and say, how is it that I feel? You're trying to get away from whatever that tiger is in your life, right? So basically, the reason why I find the Desire Map as a great introduction to start, wiggling your toes in the waters of self-discovery and healing is because it's a really nice method, and it's a process. It's an inquiry process that takes you back to the root of how you want to feel, and having that moment, allocating it to yourself. I'm going to sit with my coach, and I'm going to do the deeper healing work. And the main question of Desire Map coaching is, how do you want to feel? And from there, everything stems out in terms of livelihood and lifestyle, body and wellness, creativity and learning, relationships and society, and essence and spirituality. These are like the main categories of life that this method focuses on. And it asks you to see how you want to feel in each of those categories. And you've done it with me. I've done it myself. Sometimes I'm like, what? I never even thought about this.
Oh my
It's like
God, totally.
I thought I would be whizzing through the answers, and I'm like, hold up, I need a glass of wine. I need to take a moment because I have no idea who I am when it comes to, I don't know, body and wellness or lifestyle or I've just been surviving all this time. Wait, are you asking me what it is I need and what it is I feel in order to thrive? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, we're not through the entire Desire Map workbook yet, because, something amazing that Anna does is, like she said in the beginning, each and every one of us is unique, right? And she has a gift, right? It's truly, in my opinion, not a gift you can train someone on. She has an innate gift where she can sense, when we need to pause, when we need to slow down a little bit, when we can push a little bit. She knows, right? Because like she said, you push someone too much, it really doesn't work. It can set you back 10 steps. So here, of course, I thought, it's a workbook and I'm a hardcore Virgo, and let's do this. I'll be done with this in 6 weeks, and I'm going to use all my colored pencils. And, and it's like, no, that's not really how it works.
Tiffany, let's practice some loving kindness right now, right? Right in the middle of it, because it really throws you a little bit. And like you could whiz through like the sections of, let's say, livelihood and lifestyle, but if somebody had an eating disorder, once you get to body and wellness, that can take a lot longer to get through. But then they're really, let's say they're really creative and they can whiz through that easily. But then let's say they're having like some spiritual, I don't know, blockages. They don't know where they are in terms of that. So that's going to take longer too. So you got to tread carefully to not re-trigger and to advance mindfully. So what I do is I use the Desire Map workbook, and I ask all the juicy questions that enable my client to discover and discuss what their core desires are.
So how can people who want to explore doing this work with you, what is the best way for them to reach out with you and schedule like an initial complimentary session with you?
So Instagram, Life Butterfly Effect, they can DM me there, or on my website, they can have a look at that. I'm sure you're going to probably put it in your notes.
Yeah, I'll put it in notes. It's Life Butterfly Effect. So it's the same as her Instagram, but it'll also be in show notes, you guys. So the actual link where you can just click on it.
Right. And you can email, like I have an email link there. So lifebutterflyeffect@gmail.com and my website, lifebutterflyeffect.com. Yeah, and it's usually an initial conversation to see, if we're ready for this, if you're ready to take the step. The first step, that first step is the scariest step because you don't even know where that step is. But once you raise your foot, you're going to find that step magically appears.
That's a really good point. You guys are listening to this episode for a reason, and you stayed listening throughout it for a reason, and you're listening to it for today for a reason. Think about all the things that had to happen for you to even find and be listening to this episode. Most of you have never met me in person, or maybe you saw me speak at an event, then you followed me on Instagram, then maybe you listened to my podcast, or maybe someone referred it to you. So the universe is supporting you. Just I want you to pause and think about that for a moment, right? Because things show up for us. Things happen for us, not to us, and this is here for a reason. So if you guys really loved this episode, do us a favor, take a screenshot and post it on social media. Be sure to tag both of us at ProjectME with Tiffany and Life, like LIFE, Butterfly Effect. And this way we know that you guys love the episodes, that we can continue to do more episodes of this matter, maybe have Anna back on and talk a little more deeply in different areas. And it really would help us both out knowing what you guys thought of the show. So thank you so much for coming on, Anna. I really appreciate all of your wisdom, and just the way you explain everything is so clear.
Thank you. It was a pleasure talking to you. I love our conversations.
Me too. See, guys, we're not meant to do this alone. And most of you guys know I've done a shit ton of work, but I have a business coach that I've had for many years. And I make sure that I have a personal development coach, which is Anna. So you have to make sure that you are always working on yourself, because if I went back to my own devices, even though I've had all these years of therapy and personal development workshops and all this stuff, if I'm left to my own devices, I'll slip back into old behaviors because that programming is so ingrained in me from birth. Do you guys see what I'm saying? Anna, do you agree with that?
It's a lifetime. You cannot change in a day, in a week. It's impossible. You need to literally rewire your brain through neuroplasticity. And you know what? Like you said, no, nobody's alone. You're never alone. And I want people to know that you are never alone. And like I always say, as I've said it before, hand in hand, we got this.
Hell yeah. I love you.
I love you too.
Bye, hon.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please write a 5-star review on iTunes. Not only will this make me super happy, but it will allow more listeners to find our special show. Simply help me help others.